All right, and then there were three. Thrice the party today. Hey, Ryan. Hey,
Oh, we're
Kavi.
live.
We're live.
Kavi,
Good
this is
day.
good morning. Thanks for joining us here. This is our first Being Dads Dad Talks threesome. Nothing. First dad
Chirp,
joke.
chirp, chirp, chirp.
Yeah, right. Awkward. All right. Well, this is the first time, yes, we've tried three people on the show here. So Alain and I welcoming our good friend. Kavi and I go back many years right now. And we are excited to have him join us. There's lots that I've learned from him, and lots that he's experienced as Daddy Kavi, as corporate Kavi, as crypto Kavi. So there's lots that we wanted to get into here. But first of all, yeah, thanks, Kavi, for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So yeah, maybe just I'll tee it up a tiny bit here. So Cavi's based in Toronto, Canada. He's a dad with two young daughters, and he's worked his way up in several big organizations, international organizations, large international organizations, and also, yeah, has been deep into the crypto realm in a different way than I think a lot of people. That's what I've really learned from him too. Is his values are very similar to mine in terms of how he looks at some of these investments and some of these projects. So we're excited to have him share some thoughts on how he looks at some of that as well. And yeah, he's quite a visionary. That's what him brought Kavi and I first together. Was he had big ideas, big visions for how technology could improve the corporate life and really for the people on the ground. I think Kavi, I didn't know this part of your resume there, but I'd looked that you'd started out at Ledcor, kind of out in the field, and worked your way up into a leadership position. And you always, my experience, you were always thinking about the guys out in the field and how to make their life better, and then also how to make the company more environmental, more profitable. So you had these big visions for how technology was gonna help help everyone. And so I really appreciated that. And we came together on a project there, and it's been a great friendship since. So, um, yeah, I don't know where we want to get started. There's so much to talk about, but Alain, any
Yeah, well,
thoughts?
let's start right where you left off. Ryan and I connected through big ideas. I had a vision of making life more safe for our frontline employees in the construction industry, and the CIO and CCO basically there was an innovation program they were looking for, and we submitted it, and they right away connected me to Ryan as the engineer, the person who would be able to take these words, pictures, and destination, really the moonshot. And Ryan was able to manufacture that and put it together. And ever since, we have just continued to keep in touch. Um, and I think that that was the beautiful starting point, is that we complement each other in terms of how we bring things and manifest it into this world. And yeah, I'm glad that I'm getting to share some of the stuff with like-minded people who can uh, find value from what we have to share.
Well, on that note, Kevin, given how much time you have invested into these large corporations, maybe just share because in our men's group that you're a part of, and same with Alain, we talk a lot about entrepreneurship and people that have their own business. And you've worked inside a lot of these really big companies as more of maybe an entrepreneur. Maybe you could just share because not everyone, has walked the path of having their own business. It's not right or wrong, and I know you've got ideas and stuff too, and stuff that you do. But yeah, maybe you could share just your sort of philosophy and your approach to, as corporate Cavi.
You know, it depends. Real starts at leadership, in my opinion. It's where someone finds drive, motivation, and can use that as fuel to put in extra work. It's no different than training for a marathon or a triathlon. Ironman, for example, one of our close friends, becoming whatever it is you want to be. And it with leadership, it's finding that spark within the people that you're that's supporting. And we came from an industry and a time where fear-based leadership was really the methodology of how things got done. Um, and as time transitioned and we had more education, there was the ability to lead through different values and approaches, and we're seeing that shift today. People are looking now for empowerment, validation, recognition. It's not just money based, it's also what are the other values these corporations are bringing forward to us. So in terms of leadership, I think it all begins there, having the right leader to foster an employee's growth and development or find drive in reaching their greatest version of themselves or their whatever path that they want to be on. It all starts there. And if you're either embraced by a leader who's going to lift you up and help you get to your destination, or you're going to have a leader that's going to use you as a tool. And if you don't find that balance between the two, um, you end up often end up complaining and becoming victim mentality. So that was a bit of a ramble there because I've gone through many experiences and I've had great leaders who've changed how I show up and have helped me find my way up the ladder. And I've had leaders that have embarrassed me and yelled at me in person in a large office. And the way you walk away from both experiences can change the course of your life depending on how resilient, how um, connected you are to your drive. So, in a long-winded self, it's really what motivates you, and it's finding that. So, I've been able to find that motivation because I worked in the front lines. I've seen people get injured, people die, um, and I wanted to be a change. So I figured the only way to do that is to climb the ladder and interact with the decision makers and connect them to the front lines. And technology has played a major part in that, especially through the change of 1999. So I'll stop talking there for a moment.
Well, I just wanted to. Oh, that's good. You can
Like,
keep
and
going.
sign me, so flag me down if I'm talking too much, and it's like let Ryan back in.
No, 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 it's great. I just wanted to, before we got on to the next point there, talk about leadership then.
Okay.
And I think there's a parallel here between probably your experience in corporate to how you are as a dad. And so help me understand your leadership style in these corporations. Because you talked about, your experience with other leaders, and that's shaped probably who you are right now and how you show up in these companies and probably show you up how you show up in your own personal life. So maybe just if you wouldn't mind, share with us your perspective, your style, your philosophy around your own way of leading.
So I lead through example. Um, I will lead from the front. I will lead from the back. I feel my team or the people around me, and I adapt to support and allow their greatness to shine through. And often I put myself as a leader, the one that is really just guiding the conversation. So for me, I'm more of about empowerment, having communicative and very collaborative approach. I feel that my decision really is a sum of all other voices. So it's in enabling everyone to vote and make a stand for themselves, and then my role is to take the majority and guide it in the right direction. And that's much how I do it as a father. You know, my wife and I are both leaders. My wife is more agile than I am in terms of everything she brings to the table and being a mother and as a woman. But as a man and being a protector, being, masculine energy, I'm very embracing because I want their leadership to shine through, and I want to raise strong, independent children.
Do you
Great. Well, I
remember
appreciate that.
do you remember like a time where that kind of shifted for you in terms of how you viewed leadership? Because like you were saying, like there's the kind of the more traditional kind of like top down view of it, and there's people are kind of leading by force. It's like do as I say, not as I do necessarily. Whereas now we have this big shift where people seem to be much more authentic. People are much more inclusive. People are really leading by helping the people that we're leading to lead themselves and to be leaders in and of themselves. So I'm curious, like, did you have an experience where like, oh, like you saw a shift, or was it something like a negative experience where you saw like, oh, like this is not working? Like, do you remember something like that?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, it was definitely the a change of leadership that changed basically. We were all empowered. We actually had voices, and the more that we felt confident in putting up our hand or speaking candidly, you saw movement, you saw recognition, acknowledgement, conversations expanded, which led into pilot projects and fail fast mentalities, and then you are actually expanding as opposed to contracting, where you're discovering what my boundaries are. And also, as you expand your comfort zone, it opens up new ways of perception. So, was there? It was the key moment for me was a change in leaders. I had a very traditional leader, and then they moved out, and I had a new one come in, and the dynamic changed, and the space was held, and we were allowed to create and manifest, and that was really the key where you could quickly accelerate your learning and an understanding of what you're really capable of.
Yeah, that's cool, Kevin. And then how does that, is going back to your own childhood, like how what kind of parenting style did your parents have too?
Good point. That is, I had a very traditional style. Male, female, um, dominant roles, embracing my mother very nurturing and caring, and um, uh, I was very fortunate. Both my parents are still married today, and coming up to probably like 50 years, and I've had a really great role model, and so very embracing, sometimes too embracing, and that's kind of why I left Toronto to get away from the life I had here and break free and become a man. Otherwise, I could have stayed at home the whole life and been well taken care of. But I was hungry. I've always been hungry. I've always wanted to test my limits. And just circling back to your original question, Ryan, about the entrepreneurial side versus the corporate side. I've been fortunate that my career has really been based around startups, accelerated growth, or turnarounds. And that's really the last 25 years of operational leadership in three industries: construction, telecommunications, automotive. My skills have been transferable, and they've been able to um, use technology to really bring game-changing results to high-performing cross-functional teams.
Yeah, very cool. Because yeah, you're in these aren't small organizations. Like, how big is Napa?
Uh, they're Fortune 200 company, traded publicly on the stock exchange.
How many employees?
Oh, shoot.
Oh, probably over 100,000,
45, 50,000.
50,000. Yeah,
Yeah, you're probably talking, and that's maybe just North America. They're a global company, right? So that's a
yeah,
good question.
yeah.
I'm
These
so
aren't
embarrassed
small.
I can't answer that.
Yeah, but you're in, you're looking at big budgets and a lot of clients and a lot of personalities and a lot of dynamics. So yeah, it's impressive what you're doing.
Thank you. Well, and you know what? It's you guys have played a big part in that. BC is traditionally 60% entrepreneurial small business and about 40% corporate. If you look at the grand scale, whereas in Toronto, it's probably 75-30, 75-25 or 70-30. And all of you, all of them guys in the mastermind, you guys are all entrepreneurs and or entrepreneurs, as you said. And been able to learn a lot from you in terms of being able to see decisions being able to be made or you go directly. So, and I feel very much close to those aspects in a startup or a turnaround. So, how people, their energy and what's driving them is different. In a startup, everyone's excited, everyone's hungry, so the energy is different, right? And in a corporation, it's easy to have those energies shift, and a
Yeah.
leader may not have that
Right,
control.
right. And just for quick context, then, so the three of us actually all met through our own men's group, and so Kavi and I, well, yeah, we're way just after we had started working together and had become friends. We had done some men's group work, same with Alain, and we'd done this original men's group that turned out to be certainly the wrong set of values for us. But from that learning and just doing small group men's work and supporting each other authentically, we decided to create our own men's group called Being Men 9 years ago now. And so we created our own small group of 7 guys. Now it's 6. And so Kavi and I and Alain joined a different team because we wanted to keep them small. And so for 9 years, every week, Kavi, myself, and 4 other gentlemen have met. It used to be in person, then we moved to Zoom, and we talk about everything: life, business, kids. Every one of us is a dad. So now it's kind of more like being dads. That's Alain and I, our new group. But yeah, it's dad talks, but in small format group work and really helping each other, authentically in terms of what each guy needs right now. So yeah, anyways, that's what you're referring to. I wanted to give some context there.
And the interesting part is that we're all fathers. And in the beginning, that wasn't the case. And a man has the choice to become a father or not. And sometimes and sometimes not. That may not always be the case, but ideally, generally speaking, fatherhood is something that changed my life. And I'm just glad that I've aligned myself with other great men who I feel are the role models of tomorrow, and that I would want my family and friends to look to say, hey, those are men of integrity. They honor their word.
Yeah.
One thing I find super interesting, like Kavi, I don't know you. I've met you a few times, and I know we've spoken a few times, but I don't know you more than that. But what I found interesting, just getting on this call this morning, was just knowing that you know Ryan and knowing that you guys are really close. Like right away, it was kind of like I by proxy, like you were like Ryan by proxy. So it was like, oh, like I knew so much about you just because of your proximity to Ryan. I was like, oh, this guy's a great guy. I can open up to him. He's just like he's one of us just because of that. And I find that fascinating that, when because it's especially as you think, not only as guys, but as people in entrepreneurship or in the corporate world, like there's always, or traditionally there's this idea of like, you're looking out for the other guy. Like, what's this guy up to? Like, I'm just trying to, like, I'm gonna one up him. I'm gonna, better him in this way, or, we're all posturing in a certain way. Yet when we get together in these circles, in these environments, it's just like, oh, we get to let our guard down. We're just a bunch of dudes. We're just like hanging out. We're trying to be better. We're trying to, raise these kids. We're trying to raise these companies. We're trying to raise these communities, and we're just who we are. And I just absolutely love that about this community that we've nurtured and that you guys created. And that was I'm a beneficiary of all these years later.
Yeah, you said a lot of good stuff. Really, we're raising our standards, and each of us are bringing something to the table and helping create awareness and highlight blind spots for each other so that we can make decisions and consciously about how we show up every day. And it's funny you say that because there's a saying that show me who your friends are, I'll tell you who you are.
Mm.
And the the well, these are the old time saying I was my pops used to tell me when you'd see my friends. So I growing up in Toronto and that sort of stuff, it was different. It was very masculine in terms of playing sports, riding bikes, playing, standing up to people. Back in the days, people trying to roll you for your shoes. That was the big thing. And if you got rolled, then it was a different story. So you have to stand up for yourself very quickly. Those when those new Jordans came out and like $100. That was what we were trying to spend our money on. And but that energy never really left. It kind of just transforms. And Ryan, has been in fraternities and these sorts of things, or there's secret societies, corporations, sports teams. There's a camaraderie there, and I think once you kind of know one of those people in that community, everyone can be a reference for everyone. And it's kind of interesting in the corporate world. We ask for references. What are we asking for? Someone to tell us about our character, to answer questions. Is it truthful? Is it not? It's all subjective, but I really like how you acknowledge that for Ryan, because Ryan is definitely one of those people that if you say, "Hey, I know Ryan," and Ryan makes a stand for you, it's very powerful.
Hmm.
And I feel the same way about you, Alain, because of Ryan, and being around and seeing you and how you show up. So I just want to acknowledge you both for that.
Thank you.
Getting a little emotional. I know you guys. Just a little some bro love here. Okay, well, why don't we? I mean, we could. There's a lot we could talk about because there is still a lot of the, sort of that traditional leadership and traditional parenting, right? There's still a lot of fear-based. There's still a lot of guilt-based. There's still a lot of top-down. There's still a lot of hierarchy. I mean, we could probably do the next, 45 minutes on that. But why don't we switch gears a little bit to Daddy Cavi, since this is Dad Talks, and just talk about, I mean, I was with you during those earlier years when you're out west here, and so Cavi did live out west here, and we even started a business together. Remember that, right? Mobilutions. Him and I both left the corporate world around the same time, largely due to a conflict of values, and explored. We had a client. The funny thing is we exited that company, and then we sold our own first solution back to the back to them. And anyway, so he was out west here, and we were part of the men's group. And he was single. We did some fun stuff like Tough Mudder together. We were training for that with a good group of guys, and some other guys in our men's group. And then maybe, yeah, just tell me how that journey, if you wouldn't mind, whatever you feel like comfortable sharing about that time and that journey into becoming a dad.
Yeah, thank you. So it was actually during training for Tough Mudder. We had one of our powwows and masterminds before being at one of our friend Tim's gym. So we did a running time test to see where we stood in terms of like accomplishing the goal of running 18 miles. And that was 0 to 100 for me. I didn't do much running. I did more weightlifting and wakeboarding, snowboarding, so physical activities. So I really had to just change my game. And at the end of that session, I was like, I felt defeated that all these guys are machines running in their time, and I'm like, whoa, I'm gonna be the last one, the weakest link. I got to work twice as hard. So, well, every moment someone's not training, somebody else is. So I made sure to, in those 5 months, to squeeze in as much training as I could, so I can be competitive and keep up with these guys. And I think just being so physically drained, it really opened up my ability to be vulnerable with these guys. And I don't know how the topic came up about relationships and whatnot. But the basic learning that I had was, or realization was that I was afraid of commitment, and I would self-sabotage whenever things got too comfortable or too good and it was out of my comfort zone. I would sabotage my relationships. And how you do everything is how you do anything. There's a few people who mention that. It started to dawn on me that I was the problem. And so yeah, it just kind of opened my eyes, and I made a commitment. So it was about making a commitment and following through on that. And I promised myself that the next woman that I meet, I will be completely um, open to and transparent and vulnerable. And that I had that issue that I may sabotage our relationship at times, and help me realize this, and ended up marrying her. So it was, and we went to school back in university 13 years previously. So connected over the internet. When I was in Toronto one weekend during Caravana, she was in town. She was living in California at the time, and we connected, and then she came visited me in BC, and there was a wrap after that, after a year, and then we decided to move back closer to home where our families were. Her family's here in Toronto, and my family's here in Toronto. So having kids with our near our family was critical for us in terms of how we want to raise our children with values and what was important to us. And the rest is a wrap. Now I have two kids, one in senior kindergarten, one in junior kindergarten, and it's the best thing I've ever done, becoming a father.
Well, thanks, Gabby, for sharing all that actually. And it's so interesting. I absolutely remember that conversation in Tim's gym with the guys. And you're right, I don't totally remember how it came about, but I totally remember you sharing. Just, I think that I remember maybe just like I don't know what you want to call it, light bulb moment or just a new shift, a new awareness there in with us. But that was small. That was a small group of guys, being physical, kind of breaking, but more importantly, what I heard you say is, lowering our guards and just being real and how powerful that can be.
Authentic leadership is critical in the corporate world, with customers, but even more so with your family, and how we show up. So I think being able to not see vulnerability as a weakness, but as a powerful tool that can be used to motivate and inspire others, and also clearly share a message of learning, and pass that on to future generations.
Yeah, amazing. And then just you want to maybe add one more section there. I'd love to hear about. I mean, that was amazing. I didn't know all the story there with your wife that you guys had. I mean, it sounds like you reconnected. And then just from a new version of Kavi, right? The real, maybe the real Kavi, as we're all unfolding here. Just share with us maybe just how that whole, shift becoming a, Kavi husband to then a father, like that first child, you find out about it, just, everyone's got their own story of that and how that unfolds. But how did that go for you?
Yeah, Father, very interesting. Let me tell you, for nothing what I thought it would be. My wife and I, we connect on like a spiritual level, so we can have those discussions. And I really did a lot of listening on how going through when you find out you're pregnant, you're gonna have a kid. The woman realized that instantaneously. For me, it was a concept that I couldn't really understand. Like I knew what it meant, but and the feeling and how I integrated, I didn't realize it until actually my kids were born, my first one, and seeing it and going through and holding. That's when it became real for me. So my wife started down the path 9 months, probably before that, actually internalizing it. So we had a lot of candid conversations about how she envisions this, and what do I feel. And we went down the path of hypnobirthing, believing in doing a lot of natural breathing, going inwards, and there was a crazy saying in the book, and it really it made the way it came out, and I interpreted it was that it's a portal from when a woman gives birth. It's a portal of a being coming into this life from the internal to the external, and the words that they used in terms of like this the mind space a woman has to be into when she gives birth is like in this place of that's in, another dimension almost, right? And they're
Mm.
portaling in a being into this world. Like the world's populated because of women. So it's a very powerful time, and that was really it allowed us to really connect deeper on a spiritual level and own own her power and mine as well. And that was really the life changing pieces. Once I had my first daughter, you start going down the path of learning and become a child again, going through every single piece of the stages. So
Yeah, I remember when my kids were born, especially my first one, like there's so many things that all of a sudden my whole childhood came like rushing back. I'm like, oh, saw everything about how I grew up in a totally different way. Well, not in a totally different way, but there's a whole other layer to all of a sudden like I didn't have just my experience as a kid, but I could take myself out of my experience and see it like, oh, how it must have been for my dad, how it must have been for my mom. And there's some things that I learned just even just some more, I wouldn't say traumatic, but more like I had negative associations with some experiences as a kid where all of a sudden when I had a kid, I could see those and go, oh, wait a second. Maybe I was just seeing that wrong. Like maybe I was seeing that differently. Like maybe I was seeing that in a way that wasn't really what happened. And I could have so much more empathy for my dad and also for myself. Like, wow, like we're going to have experiences here where there's my perspective, there's her perspective, there's her perspective. And then the truth may lie somewhere in the middle of that. And none of it is wrong and none of it is right. It's just it is what it is. But it just opens up. Yeah. It's like you're saying, like, all of a sudden for as the woman, the mother is like they're nurturing that probably their whole lives, like for the moment where they go from the internal to the external with the baby coming out. But for us it's like it seems to happen the opposite way. It's like it just happens, it starts as soon as the baby's born, like holy shit, and there's all this new perspective shift that happens. I find that so fascinating as that all happens.
well, that's a gift, I think, really of life is for those who choose to become a father, you actually experience this journey, and it's a never-ending journey. Being a parent, it's you'll always be a parent, and which has its fun times and it has its interesting times. But being dad is the best part, right? Is it's just really being responsible for someone, and our job is to educate them and give them the knowledge so they can make the best decisions for themselves and create a powerful life, um, and know it's possible. I think that's the big thing. And a lot of people don't see the light. They do not think it's possible. And, that's why we have all these people say, get rich fast. You'll see on the internet, everyone can tell you how to get rich, but tell them to show you. That's a different story.
Mm.
Right? So a lot of people talk the talk, and a lot of people walk the walk, and there's a big difference. And being a father and being a mother, being responsible at that level, you really have to act and show up because they're very dependent on you, and it's a duty, and not all kids have that opportunity. I grew up um, with a lot of friends who have single family homes, and we were the one family in the neighborhood that was we were whole and complete. I have a younger brother, 4 years, and it was just a stop off point, to jump off. Everyone would stop by, and they knew my parents. We weren't there. They would all talk, and it was really inclusive, and I think that that kind of is how I showed up as a leader, and as how I show up as a father. And those values kind of, I was blessed to have that experience. But I've seen the salty and I've seen the sweet, and that's why I think I strive to help people see that things are possible, and to help them do it. I'm just a conductor of the energy, and that's, you know, what I'm here to do in whatever it is. I don't want to, I want to help everybody, as many people as I can. And sometimes I probably take on too much, and don't give myself enough time, and that's one of the things I think I'm going through right now, is owning my power, and finding grace within it, and how I maneuver in all that I do, and really narrowing in what's important. Because once you become a parent, at times you have a benchmark, and time is, you start noticing how quickly it's been going by. And that's the big game changer, and it starts getting into what's really important now. I learned that from another one of our guys, with the win. What's the W? What's the win? What's important now? And it's the family, it's the children, it's what's the next step. And that's really the key decision making in my life right now, amongst continuing to share whatever knowledge I have. And you know, there's a couple of key areas that I've been spending most of my time in. And
Hmm.
Thanks, Kavi. Um, just keeping with the Daddy Kavi here for a few more minutes. And this is a question I think I'd like to ask everyone who comes on. Because there's a lot of different, I'll get to it in a second. There's a little bit of a preamble here. There's a lot of different, styles of being a dad, right? A lot of different perspectives, opinions, a lot of different ways that we would have experienced our dads and other dads in our lives as kids. But it's also still a really small sample size. I just find that fascinating. Just as a parent, is we have such limited, really, experience of what it means to be a parent, um, and yet we're responsible for these amazing lives of and our children. And speaking of which, one of them's just woken up. Um, and but when this is something that really struck me in our first men's group work was there's so many examples of what it means to be a man too, right? And there's no right and there's no wrong, but I know that, and it's documented in some of these books, Boys Adrift and The Boy Crisis. I read a lot of these when our son was born, and the struggle a lot of young men or boys have experienced is they'll see these examples, but it's a very limited subset of examples of what it means to be a man. They'll see their father, they'll see if they have one. That's the other problem, is a lot of these young boys didn't have present fathers, right? As you were saying, right? A lot of single parents, or the dad was just off, out trying to change the world, but not at home, actually, present with his family, which is where he could have probably done the most change. Not right or wrong, right? It's just, it creates a certain path potentially for the child. They'd see examples in movies, they'd see examples on social media, and a lot of times the boys would go, "Well, that's not what being a man feels like. Like that doesn't resonate for me, but that's what I'm seeing out there." And then they get this conflict of, well, is that what it, but if that's what it means to be a man, then what am I? Because that doesn't resonate for me. So I think what's been really helpful for me is, and I'm not making this about me, I just want to give you a little bit of a preamble here. What's been really helpful is just to find more examples and talk to more guys and see that what I feel is also out there in the world, like we're talking about with our group here. That just feels so, validating, so good. So, it's like, okay, I get to be me, and that's can be a great example. So a long-winded rambling into the question I wanted to ask you, which is, for you, what does it mean to be a dad?
no one's asked me that question before. Good question.
And there's no right or wrong answer, and you could just spew out whatever comes to your mind, right? Like, what's the role that you feel like you took on, and it's evolved probably, but maybe just speak around, just, yeah, what does it mean? What do you make it mean? What is that role that you think that, you get to play?
You're responsible for a human. Um, you're responsible for how they interpret this world to a certain degree. Ensure they have strong values, a benchmark in which to judge and interact with all that they're going to go through in the human experience. And it's critical that at least how I see it, my role is to protect and to support them learn as much as possible and be able to make their own decisions once they become at that age. So my view right now, and it's kind of interesting because I've only looked at it from the masculine side. I always envisioned having boys. I have two girls. Well, it's definitely a different energy. I feel very blessed to have two girls. The amount of love that I've experienced in this short time is I never knew what love really meant. And you feel with them all the time. And so it's a journey now that I'm going on with girls, but I always envisioned it with a boy, right? And much of like the sports team, the warrior and the hunter, doing those stuff. I am still teaching my girls all of that stuff. We go out in nature and we do, how to make a fire because they were interested, and they were pretending. So I took them out and I said, this is how you do it. And I realized that those basic thrival skills in nature are critical. So those are things that as they get older, I'm teaching them more and more how to track, how to read a compass, how to use the sun for a sundial. What plants can you eat? What medicines are there? How do you prepare food? So it's a whole different mindset for them. But ideally, my job is to pass on the knowledge and experience that I have gone through and shorten that timeline for them to give them a better advantage so that they can learn more quickly and adapt and be the change they want to see. So really just set them up for a fruitful, successful, loving life and really enjoy the human experience and take away from it what they must.
Well, really appreciate that. And it's one, um, it sounds like the how you're doing it is also very interesting because I don't know how many dads are out there, really like teaching their kids how to make a fire and find their way with a compass and the sun. It sounds like you're wanting to really help them, support them, educate them from like, you said thrive and like from the essentials though, like from ground up, like survival from like caveman, like, okay, imagine all this stuff, but not everyone thinks that way. Is that so, maybe share a little bit just around what's your mindset around that? Like, why have you decided to like, why you're teaching them those things?
Yeah, great question. I think it's the era that we're living in. Um, we have humanity across the planet have evolved at a accelerated rate since the 90s. Um, I'm not dating myself too much, but 9/11, the year 1999, Y2K, right? It was a time where computers were just about there, and we thought the civilization was going to crash. We've gone through pagers and cell phones, instant messaging and email. We fostered this instant gratification culture that we live in today through technology as a result of technology. And I think oftentimes with all the information coming to us, we have information overload and everyone expects everything to be done immediately. And it's important to be able to step outside of that and remember what's real. And then as we move closer to a virtual world and the financial system changes, we're gonna be, and you have the meta universe and online gaming and this whole world, virtual reality, technology in terms of medicine and transhumanism. The direction the world is going is accelerating even quicker. And yeah, sure, it can be a golden age, of technology, and people can, replace organs and do things that you weren't able to do, or have a surgeon operating from a different country virtually through a robot. And, you know, it's the world's changing. And for me, I want to make sure that the values that I was taught from my parents, my father, where he grew up back in the Caribbean, and how life was very grounding and very close to livestock and in the country. I rode horses when I'd go back home. I mean, bareback, just holding the mane. Uh, But yeah, and I want to make sure my family understands that, knows it. And even if they don't experience it on a day to day, I want them to be cognizant of it and conscious of it, so that they can take care of themselves from ground up. And it's really starting at Maslow's needs, right? So good observation, though.
I had an experience the other day where I had a little bit of a conflict with my wife because me and my girls. I also have two girls, Kavi, and we were just roughhousing in the living room. They were playing like floor is lava type of game. I became the lava monster because I wasn't aware that we were playing, and so we started kind of roughhousing, and we moved a bunch of the stuff over, and like we were jumping from the couch to the ground to the table, and then one of them got hurt, as often does. And so the younger one was crying for a minute, and then as soon as she was kind of over it, we gave her a hug, and then we were like right back at it. And then the older one got hurt a couple of minutes later, and so we went through this whole thing over again, where kids are getting hurt, there's some crying, but then we got right back to playing, and the kids were happy. And my wife was like, "Why do you keep doing that? Like, what is happening? Like, the kids are crying. Why do you keep playing like this?" She kind of got mad at me, and I remember in the moment just having a great response. Like, to me, I look back, I'm like, "Oh, that was great." Because I said, and I looked at her, I said, "Because they don't need two mothers." It's like, part of my job as the father is to help them in this physical aspect of just pushing their boundaries, showing them what's possible with this. And like that's what part of, to me, being a father is. And I think we live in this world now where like there's this kind of dumbing down of the feminine and the masculine, where everybody is just kind of, there's no polarity anymore. And so everybody is, in this search for equality between the sexes, and this quality in all these things. Like, we find this place of equity where everybody's just kind of the same. And but it's like it's not, that's not good. Like kids need a father, they need a mother, they need that polarity in their relationships that they have. And so whether it's the woman that plays one and the male that plays, like, whatever, that doesn't matter. But the fact is that I remember in that moment, like, really realizing, like, no, like, the kids are going to get hurt, and that's okay. Like, that's part of where they're going to learn the most. They're going to learn their boundaries. They're going to learn that even if they do get hurt, that things can be okay, that there's someone here to protect them. There's someone here that's looking out for them, that we live in a world that is actually much more kind than we may be led on sometimes. But that's part of my job as a father. It's like, yeah, we don't, I love that line that I used. I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back, is that, yeah, the kids don't need two mothers. That's why they have me.
I like it too.
And you're right, we all do. And you're right, that masculine feminine polarity is so critical. Life is waves. It's not straight lines. It's frequencies, it's vibrations. So the balance, it needs to move as such. And you're right that the masculine energy and the feminine energy do a dance, and it's a never-ending dance. And that's kind of reminds me a lot too of the dance that we play with my eldest daughter. She was recently diagnosed with T1D, which, for those of you who do not know, is type 1 diabetes, at 4 years old. And it is ever since October 22nd, 2023, our life changed, and the dance we now do, and it's a 24/7 hour balancing act. Not only in just that natural dance of of having a mother and a father, just in terms of monitoring my daughter's blood sugar. So it's a balancing act. It's a nonstop job, and my daughter is going to have to learn how to deal with that nonstop. And imagine going through life bouncing like a blue balloon. So we're here podcasting, and I'm here bouncing this balloon. And I'm driving a car and I'm bouncing this balloon. I'm learning and I'm bouncing this balloon, so it's not touching the lava floor and popping, and that's the fine art that we get to play right now, and teach her how to do that for herself. And I'll be honest with you, my daughter has inspired me and pushed me, as well as my wife, and just how everyone's come together. But how much responsibility a 5-year-old understands about her life now, and that is a big game changer for me as well. So I thought that was a great segue into what we wanted to talk about, because it was a very challenging time for my wife and I, and that journey of acceptance and denial wasn't definitely easy. But I'm at the stage where we're able to provide her the same quality of life if she did not have it, because of technology and because of what's available. So, really grateful for that, but also the role I get to play in guiding her, as well as my wife. And I forgot where I was going to go with that. I got a little too deep there, but the the yeah, the year that went from when it happened and to where we are now, she has the same quality of life. But let's face it, it's a full-time job of her monitoring her blood sugar, because her pancreas doesn't work. So that's kind of where we are as a family right now.
Yeah, I really appreciate you letting us into that part of your life, Kavi, because I know it was, we've been talking through the years here, obviously weekly in our men's group. So I was with you on the journey, and it got pretty serious at a point there. I know for you guys, you can share whatever you're comfortable with sharing, but then also out of that, your wife's been helping me also, because I was just wanting to know some of the early signs too, so that I think there's a gift in this for obviously that for others too, to just learn about what some of those signs were, because you guys saw them, but then it was so easy to be like, oh well, it's this, and then oh well, it's that. I mean, any parent could happen to, right? And anyways, yeah, I just wanted to appreciate you for what you're willing to share here, and honor you guys for what you've been through and come out the other side with, and where you're at with it. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and actually that's kind of where I lost my train of thought, was that the reason I brought it up is because I'm at a space where I'm ready to share and create awareness for everybody who does have T1D. And that one is it's just it's random. Apparently, there's though they don't know what's causing it, but ultimately your pancreas stops working, and its ability to produce insulin is reduced, and then insulin is what manages our blood sugar. So when we eat something, carbs or protein, how it interacts on a biological molecular state is, we basically, it converts the food we eat and the sugars, carbohydrates, into energy. And without insulin, your body cannot extract the energy out of the cells. So insulin allows your body to use the energy you're getting through eating. There's high blood sugar and then there's low blood sugar. Two of them are two different symptoms. And the we'll start with the early signs for anyone. And this is, apparently that they have kids that are born babies that have it, to adults that develop it. And there's two different types. There's type 1, which is you can't prevent it. And then there's type 2, which is usually linked to a metabolic forget what the term is, but it's basically related to your how you eat and exercise and your lifestyle. So it is manageable, and I think there's a distinction that is important for people to understand who have type 1 or for friends with it, that one is we can all get if we don't take care of our bodies and watch and what we eat and how we exercise. And then there's the one that it's kind of just like it happens and they haven't discovered why. And that's kind of, shifting my journey into this space and becoming using my skills and resources to help find a cure, to do what I need to do to help everybody who goes through this. So yeah, the awareness piece, there's two styles. So for someone who's starting to show signs or symptoms, usually it's increased thirst, hunger, people feeling weakness, or they have to go to the bathroom often. There could be, and in a child, some of these things they can't really explain it. They can't communicate how they're feeling. But as a parent, you know your child if you see them every day, and if you're lucky to get to see them every day, you'll see that they're off. And my wife she was on it, and she basically identified the urination and very thirsty and getting a bit lethargic at times. And for her, that wasn't really her. And we had just started school. She had just started kindergarten. So it was a very interesting time. It was it her settling into school and integrating into the whole new everyday lifestyle, or was it something that was happening at school, or was it something she was eating? So there was a lot of variables at the time, and we went and got tested, and it was missed in the test. And when they look back, there was high sugars in the urine, which is usually one way you can get tested. You can go and ask for to do a urine test, and then they'll look for like if you have abnormally high levels of sugar, because what the body does naturally, and that's what the amazing thing about the human body is that it's compensating for the high blood sugar read levels, and it drives thirst, and it tries to flush out the high sugars through the urine. So it's one of the key signs, and it's also one of the tests that a doctor can do if you think that you may have something of this. And then a lot of those symptoms are maybe common at times, but you'll notice if it's a trend or not.
Yeah.
And that's where you got to be mindful. So, to give you guys some insight, my daughter did go into ketoacidosis, which is um, basically a state where her body shut down, and we ended up in the hospital, and we were able to get her the help she needed in time, and she's made a sound recovery. But that was a very rough journey, and it just happened. So, as much as I think you can prepare for anything, nature and career path, life's going to throw things at you that you are not ready for. So just always being open and agile, and I think training to always be ready. And that's what a man's good at in the sense of how we show up hunter gatherer, and women as well. But I think it's something that will help you through these challenging times that life's going to present to you. And it's how we use this information or experience to grow and improve and help others. And this is a part of, I'm so happy that you invited me on, because I want people to not go through this if they don't have to, and to see early signs of awareness for people with diabetes, because they have to check their blood sugars always. So if they are showing signs of high blood sugar, which is more of a risk internally versus if you go low blood sugar, it's shut down and can do damage. So it's the people that are around or who have friends being mindful and understanding how what they go through is going to be important, to have that key support and people that have their back that they can trust. So it's going to be a different path for my daughter and for us, and we've all changed our lifestyle, and all we can do is do our best and support her with the tools so she can have a regular life.
Thanks, Kevin. I mean, you guys. I don't know what that was like. I can imagine it was, anytime you think about your kid going to the hospital, it's like, it's one of our greatest fears, right? And there was a year or two where we experienced them like, man, next year can we just not go to the hospital? Like William was pretty young. I think he swallowed a chicken bone. He broke his arm. But just, when you just, yeah, when you love them so much, you don't want to see them go through some of the stuff. But you guys have done an amazing job, and I'm so glad that you know, you guys are who you are to be able to support her, and her. I can just feel her strength through this process as well, and who she is as a result of it. So yeah, thanks.
She's very powerful, and I'm excited to see what's possible for her because she's learning to count carbs, she's understanding what she's eating, she knows when to eat what, if it's protein, carbs, or vegetables. She checks her number. Her friends ask about her number. She's really built a she's confident, and it helped me get over the fact of like my own feelings about it all because and that's the beautiful thing about children. They are resilient. They are loving. They don't make anything about anything. They just really take what you give them or what they are learning and run with it and embrace it. And if they can do it from that age, I'm just inspired to see, if this is what she's done so far, what's next for her. And I just have to continue to do my best and to support her and give her the space to grow and share and like any other child, right? I think if it's very similar, whatever, life's not perfect, and but we find our own version of it, and as long as we can embrace our kids and give them that space to grow and become the greatest version of themselves, I think we've done our best,
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I'm 46 and I still don't know what to eat, so that's she's ahead of me at 5.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I know we said an hour, but I also know, do you guys both have a little bit more time,
Yeah.
yeah.
Alain? I
I got like
yeah,
15 max.
okay, all right. My youngest, and I know Alain does this too. They come into our office here. I forgot to lock the door, so she's
It's
sleeping on
okay.
the ground here behind me.
That's okay.
Um, but yeah, we got time before school. So the last chapter here, and I mean, I want to go deeper on all these, Kavi. I want to go back into where you said you came from and some stories and values from there when you're riding horses bareback, and just what it's been like as a minority, here in Canada. I mean, that's a whole other episode. We'll have you back on the show, or maybe you can have us on yours, as Crypto Cavi. So that's the next segment here of the show. I wanted to just talk a little bit about because you've really I just love these things where we don't know what you introduced me to Landmark. Actually, it was the Tuesday night, your Tuesday night that I went to, and that whole concept of we don't know what we don't know. Like this is what we know, but then there's this whole other thing of, well, here's all the other stuff you don't know. But then how much you know? How do you know how much you don't know, right? Anyways, I always remember that diagram. And then when someone comes along and you're thinking like, oh yeah, I know. And then someone comes along and goes, what about this? And you're like, oh, I know nothing. Damn it. So,
How I
um,
feel every day.
so I'd been in crypto for a long time. I bought into Bitcoin. Someone educated me at a Tony Robbins finance event. Oh man, like 8 years, no, maybe not quite that, 6 years ago or something. And he gave me Bitcoin and I paid for his event. It was a long story, but I got it at like $3,500. And so at the event, they were talking about it. And I was like, okay, a lot of this makes sense to me. I got to get this thing. I got to get into it. And sure enough, this guy I met, he's like, okay, I'm going to give you one if you pay for my event. Because he ran into problems with them because he's all crypto and they wouldn't accept it and he needed someone's credit card. So anyways, I paid for the event for him. He gave me Bitcoin, and then boom, down the rabbit hole we go. But then recently, you opened my eyes up to a whole other realm of, I mean, I knew of the coins, but they're not coins, right? They're, in my opinion, they're projects. There's a lot of value they're creating in the world. And you introduced me to that in June. And so I was like, oh, those totally align with my values. And then I realized why Bitcoin, for me personally, didn't. So I took my Bitcoin and I bought into this portfolio of coins that you shared and projects you shared. So, and they're up. Well, they were up. They've gone down a little bit. This it's a great emotional roller coaster to learn from. But anyways, it was up like 300% as of a few days ago, after 6 months, so 5 months. Anyways, so I'm very appreciative of your perspective on some of this. I align with it myself personally. I've now experienced, I'm fairly savvy, and I've also seen the potential, even in the last 5 months, and realized some gains, and then I can see the potential going forward. So maybe just start off with your journey with crypto, your philosophy around some of these projects, where you're at with things. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I do not take responsibility for anything you may do. But yeah, so my first experience was back in 2017 when Bitcoin was on one of its bull runs, and I got involved with Coinbase and BitConnect. And BitConnect turned out to be a big scam. It was almost too good to be true, the whole way the pyramid was working. But you basically store your Bitcoin, the Bitcoin would earn you a percentage every day. And eventually you get to these markers and your money would start to multiply at an astounding rate. And you had all these YouTubers who were telling you and like cheering it on. And being someone who's of always looking at ways to innovate or what's coming down the pipeline, especially from my telecommunication days, build a strong foundation in terms of technology and going through the various industrialization of it. And now we're so connected. But I came across Bitcoin in Vancouver during the Canuck riot. So the hockey game where the Vancouver Canucks lost to the Boston Bruins, game seven at home, and the city was torn apart for the most part. Um, I was down there, watching the game, and after the game, we all know what happened. And for those of you who don't, we had a lot of upset fans, and they showed how upset they were. And it was surreal, but we got mustard gas, and because I was a Whitecaps fan of the Southsiders, there was a bar or like a restaurant that it was closed because there was mustard gas in the street. But I showed my Southsider pass, and they let us into the place, and we got in, and there was a whole bunch of people there, and there was a Bitcoin machine, and this was I forget what year this was, 2003. 2000 the Olympic I forget when the Canucks won the lost the Stanley Cup. Was in 2010 was the Olympics.
Was it after that?
And then when do we remember when Game 7 was?
Did
We have a fact checker over here.
lose game seven in playoffs
Yeah.
against them.
I just want to be accurate with the timeline because I haven't looked right.
2011,
Yeah. So right after the
13 years
Olympics.
ago.
Yeah. So basically, we went in and they had, and Bitcoin started in 2008, I believe, 2009, somewhere around there. So we went in, there was a machine there, and of course, um, I saw this. I said, and the way that the Bitcoin logo is, it's like it's related to money. So of course, I go investigate, and And that's what kind of opened up my eyes to it. And then I got invested in this BitConnect, and that after the bull run, it ended up being a scam, and I lost my Bitcoin that I had there. But I learned a lot, and I continued to dollar cost average in. And really, at that time, Bitcoin was the pre the first blockchain technology on the distributed ledger, basically. So it was a whole new concept, and it was the hype. So that's how I got really started into it. And then Ethereum came, and then they had all of the other coins come, and I let it sit for a long time, and then I think during COVID, the everything crashed, and even Bitcoin dropped to like $3,000. As the stock market crashed, and I think it was March 20th, 2020. Um, like the world changed, forever changed, and Bitcoin dropped. And I remember because of the everyone being isolated, there was a lot more people talking about investments and this and that, and it kind of reinvigorated my like look at what I was holding, and kind of just do a quick research of what was going on in the market. And then I came across Starlink, Elon Musk, and what he started to build out into space. And then you started seeing that the Federal Reserve was changing their game plan and coming out with Fed Now. You had Security Exchange Commission, suing certain companies. You had Basel III laws coming out for banks in terms of how much gold that they can hold on the reserve currency, in terms of how much money they can loan out. And the word is escaping me at the moment, but basically, how much money a bank holds, they used to have a certain amount of gold to back that up. This policy is now making banks have gold and precious metals supported at a higher level, so that if there was a bank run or whatnot, they actually had the physical asset of gold to back it. And then the ISO 222 coins. I came across that is was the new messaging protocol that is coming into effect in this new quantum financial system, and is basically the rails of the new financial system. And seeing that these coins are the plan is to, and this is all speculation, hearsay, but is to update the Swift banking protocols, which currently deals with cross-border payments and settlement. And this is going to move, Brad Garlinghouse says, move value like the internet. So this is kind of where, knowing technology, seeing what's happening, I looked into these coins, and the ISO coins are basically the ones that I was recommending to you, because there's a lot of schools of thought here. One is that these are the banker coins. So, you're supporting the banks. Whereas Bitcoin is not centralized, and it's the people coin. Freedom, outside, you don't need a middle institution to transfer money. I can send money directly to you. So that whole Bitcoin, revolutionized that concept, and it really started to make people become comfortable with this whole technology. And this is kind of seeing the big picture and kind of experiencing it firsthand. Is I chose to, it's either, if you can't beat them, join them, and educate yourself so you can educate others, so that they can, take the necessary means, if they do their own research, to be part of this. Because money and, financial money is a tool, and those who have it have the tools they need to position themselves in a different light, or get access to information or experience. So for me, I'm again, looking to do this for my family, as a man, as a father, and as a son, as a brother, in all the ways a man can show up. So this is why I follow these coins, because I believe that this is what the new financial system is going to be based on.
Okay, cool. Yeah, let's say what, 7:25? How long did you say you had, Kevin?
It will give me 5 more minutes, I
5
guess.
minutes. Okay, so two quick questions. One is, so you were interested in Bitcoin 2011, price of Bitcoin $26. Any hindsight, any learnings, any lessons, if you look forward to now? Because if you'd put $1,000 in a Bitcoin in 2011, it'd be worth $3.8 million right now. US. So in Canada, that's like $10 million. But how much? What would what's your thoughts just quickly on lessons learned just over the years with crypto?
I think the lessons learned in anything, especially crypto, is follow the money. Um, we are so distracted these days that we don't necessarily just look to see where's the root, and it's the banking system that is changing. Everything else has changed around us with technology, and the banking institution is about to take off. Intergalactic currency, right? If we're going to colonize Mars and go travel, you can't take gold and dollars and go cash it out just like that. You need space bucks, right? And this is kind of the evolution of humanity. Now, there's pros and cons. Most of these things will probably, I forget what the number is, but Bitcoin's supposed to continue to produce Bitcoins until 22, I think 2170. So there's still a long time of life for that. And this is going to be our kids' future. So, educate yourself about it and look, because I feel that next year with the changes in the United States, regulation is going to be coming through very quickly, and we're going to see a lot of retail FOMO hit the streets in early next year. So get in while you can and ride the wave, if possible.
All right. Yeah. So I'm hearing educate yourself, be cautious if it seems too good to be true. If you've got an instinct around this, so you saw that machine, there was something that compelled it to you. Not everyone would feel the same way about that, right? What would you say? You just get in small amount, crack the seal, hold, because again, even $100 would be worth $380,000 right now.
Exactly. And it's about
Don't put in
being
any more in that put money in that you're okay losing, because this is still very, very much the Wild West. And then the last thing, sorry, I'm just gonna quickly get to my next question. Last one would be then, what projects are you really bullish on right now that you would suggest people just do a really good deep dive on?
would be any of the ISO 222 coins,
Okay,
um,
so XRP, XLM,
XDC,
XDC.
HBAR, Algo, and IOTA font. Of course, your Bitcoin and Ethereum, those are not going anywhere anytime soon. RLUSD, which is going to be eventually the new ETF that Ripple will be launching. And that's another way to get in through institutional. So there's two ways. One is through your traditional stock exchange and through your financial institution, or there's your crypto exchange. The difference is that you're buying like a basket of goods through as an ETF through the banks, and they actually own the crypto. Whereas if you go directly through an exchange and you get a cold storage wallet or online wallet, you can actually own the coin itself. And what I believe is that we are moving into the an era of tokenization, real world assets. That's Ripple's goal partly, and there's a lot of projects around that, and is putting value to it. And I believe that a lot of these coins that the bankers use will be pegged to precious metals. They call Bitcoin gold. Well, I think that's the original view, and that will shift because of things that we've talked about, Ryan, before, the environmental aspect, the speed of the technology, and they have a lot more efficient ones that they can use for real-time settlement. And it's these ISOs that are going to build the global network.
Yeah. Okay. Appreciate that. The last thing I'll add, just from I think you and I, our perspective is, yeah, do your research. Don't put any more in. Put only what you're okay losing in. If it seems too good to be true, trust your gut on that. And then also, invest with your values. Warren Buffett and those guys, it was all about value investing, get a good deal. If you really believe in this thing, you think it's going to go up to whatever. Right now, it's pretty hard to come up with valuations for this stuff. But traditional companies, there's models that are more established. But if you think it's still very undervalued, given, I do, given how much awareness there still is to go in the world and how much value these things still have to create. If you think it's a good deal, that was Buffett's models, buy it. It's on sale right now. Buy it on sale. And then from a values perspective, the more you know your own self and your own personal values and what you care for in this world, then it's much easier to make these decisions, right? If you care about the planet, if you care about some of these impacts of these projects, if you've done your research, then it makes it a good decision. It's like, wow, I think this is on sale. I really want to be a part of this in the world. It aligns with my values. It just becomes a much easier decision to make. So, and I appreciate you for educating me on these and several others in our new Crypto Kavi Mastermind. And yeah, I guess last words here, Kavi, where was the best place for people to find you if they want to learn more and hear from you?
I do not have a online presence, so if you want to find me, you can ask Ryan for now, and
Oh,
we'll talk about. You can reach out to Dad Talks, and I'll get back to you.
all
But
right.
I'll create something soon enough, and I'll make sure that on a future when I have something there. But really, just trust your gut, um, follow your highest passion and excitement, and take risks. Life is you take a risk every day, and in all that we talked about, it's about being aware and being present in yourself and connected to those around you. And I'm sure that you'll make the right decision, in everything you do, as long as you're coming from that space. I appreciate this time here to share and create some awareness and, pay it forward, and look forward to doing more of this. Um, and if it brings value, if it doesn't, then that's fine. Uh, I won't do it. But yeah, thanks for getting me out of my comfort zone, and this is my first online experience, and so to speak, not real time, but yeah, I know we can do editing and all that stuff, but I know we keep it raw on Ryan's channel,
No
so
editing.
no editing.
Nope.
So
Real, raw,
yeah,
authentic. It's
that's
us.
right. Life.
No filters.
That's right. It's important. I think that's, and it's a part of a reason why I came on, because that's how I live. And I think we all do to a certain extent, but we forget it. So just don't forget how great and powerful you are, right? And yeah, have fun and live life. Live in full effect.
Great words from Daddy Kavi. Don't forget how great
Yeah,
you
man.
are.
That's right.
Amen. Thanks, Kavi.
Awesome.
Love you,
All
bro.
right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen.